Good morning to all. I hope you all enjoyed the holidays. Okay, today we are going to learn the English. In English there are 6 units. Each unit consists of one prose, poem and supplementary. Totally there are 6. So now we are going to discuss the first chapter of this first lesson, that is a portrait of a lady. Let us discuss what's that. This prose is written by Kashwan Singh. Okay students, before entering to the prose, let us have a author introduction about Kashwan Singh. Kashwan Singh is an Indian novelist and a lawyer. He is a novelist as well as he is a lawyer. He studied at St. Stephen's College, Delhi. He has studied at St. Stephen's College at Delhi and the King College in London. So, he did his education in Delhi as well as in London. He joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1947. He had joined in Indian Foreign Service at the year of 1947. As a writer, he was best known for the keen secularism, sarcasm and love for the poetry. So, he loved the poetry very much. He served as the editor of several literary and the news magazines as well as the 2 newspapers. So, he was the editor for the news magazines as well as the newspaper also. He was awarded with the Padma Bhushan in 1974. At the year of 1974, he got the award, the most prestigious award, the Padma Bhushan award. The Padma Vibhushan by the Government of India and Sahitya Academy Fellowship by the Sahitya Academy of India. So, he got 3 awards. One is Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan and the Sahitya Academy. The mark of Vishnu, the history of Sikh, the train to Pakistan, success mantra, we Indians and the dead at the doorsteps are some of his brilliant works. So, if you go through, so many stories are there. Particularly the mark of the Vishnu is not now at the previous 12th standard, last syllabus, old syllabus, we have the story mark of Vishnu. It's very interesting and humorous story. It shows how the innocence, because of the illiteracy, how the people are leading their life. So, it is very wonderful story, and the train to Pakistan is also very nice. So, if you find a chance, you go through all his works, it's really helpful for you to understand better about the society. He will write the prose based on the daily activities of the Indian peoples. So, his stories, most of his stories were very nice and wonderful to read. Okay, let us see what he had described in the topic, the portrait of a lady. The portrait is nothing, it is a photo. A portrait means the description of the generally what we say portrait means description through writing. In olden days, you imagine the picture, we won't have a facilities of the camera to take photo, just they will draw the image of the person. So, that is a portrait of the lady. Let us see here in this general meaning, portrait means it is description, but here it is a portrait of the description of a lady. It is not a photo of a lady, it is a description of a lady, how the lady is. They had described about this in this poem. The author had described about her grandma. Let us see what is there. Here is a story that brings out the bond between the author and his loving grandmother. So, here in the story, he had described about the love between the author himself as well as his grandmother. Let us see what's there. He had described about his grandmother. Let me read the text and I will explain you one by one. My grandmother, like everybody grandmother, was an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for 20 years that I have known her. So, my grandmother, like everybody's grandmother. So, his grandmother is not different from others' grandmother. His grandmother is also like others' grandmother. was an old woman. How the whom we will call grandmother? When someone is old, we will call them as a grandmother. So like others, his grandmother is also an old woman. She had been old and wrinkled for 20 years that I have known her. For past 20 years, he had seen his grandmother. How his grandmother is? She is old and his face was wrinkled. Wrinkled means surungi irukkirathu. Okay. The people said that she had once been young, pretty, and had even had a husband. So the people said, the people of their neighbors, they used to say that once upon a time her grandmother was young and pretty. She is very young and beautiful, and had even had a husband. So she also had a husband also. It means, it shows that Arthur had not seen his grandfather. But that has hard to believe. So it is very difficult for him to believe. It is unimaginable, because the author had, when he knows, when he know her for the past 20 years, she is very old, as well as her face is wrinkled. But people around them, they are telling the grandmother was very beautiful and pretty, and even she had a husband also. So this the author can't able to believe, because the author had not seen his grandfather, as well as he had not seen the young face of her grandmother. My grandfather's portrait hang above the mantelpiece in the drawing room. Drawing room is nothing, it is a hall. And mantelpiece means in cold area. This is a story about the North India. Already I had explained you in the Arthur introduction. Arthur did his education in Delhi, so definitely it is in the North India. So there what happened, the cold will be very extremely high. So for that, what they will do, the people living in the house, they will have a mantelpiece. Mantelpiece is nothing, it is a place where we burn firewoods. So the firewoods will be there, they will burn the firewoods to warm up their body. Okay, to overcome the cold, they will warm their body by burning the firewoods. In every living room, in every hall, they have a place for this mantelpiece. Okay, so above the mantelpiece, there is one photo of portraits hanging, that is of his grandfather. He wore a big turban and the loose fitting cloth. His long white beard covered the best part of his chest, and look at this, at least 100 years old. So how he is very long, and he had weared the white color, his breeds are white in color, and it's covered best part of his chest. It means it's very long, and he looked at least 100 years old. He is looking for the age of 100 years. So he is very old looking in this portrait. He did not look at the sort of the people he would have a wife for the children. It shows he at least 100 years. The author had explained at the beginning line itself, before he had explained that he was at least 100 years. So by seeing the appearance of the man, the portrait of the grandfather, he can't able to believe that he have a children or wife, because he is very old. He only has a grandfather, he has grandchildren. So he was that much old. And look at as if he could only have lots and lots of grandchildren. So by seeing the portrait, by seeing the appearance of the grandfather, the author come to the conclusion, by seeing him, he is not that much young, he is very old, because he had explained in the before line that it was at least 100 years old. So he won't have children or wife. Because of the age maturity, he is thinking that he have lots of grandchildren. As for my grandmother, being young and pretty, the thought was almost revolting. She often told us the game she used to play as a child that seems quite absurd and undignified as on her part, and we treated it like a fables of the prospects who used to tell us. So as my grandmother, so he coming to the point of describing his grandmother. As my grandmother being young and pretty, already we had in the beginning he had said that once upon a time the grandmother was young and pretty. So that statement, the young and the pretty, the thought was almost revolting. Revolting means he can't able to accept, unaccepting thing, that is revolting. Revolting is nothing, just we can't able to accept, ஏற்றுக்கொள்ளப்பட முடியாதது, that is revolting. So he can't able to imagine that his grandmother was young and pretty. He can't able to believe that, because he know for the 20 years she was old and her face was wrinkled. And she often told us the games she used to play as a child. As a child, what are the games she played, that all she recite to her grandson. So now the author can't able to believe the beauty, imagine that her grandmother was young and pretty, as well as he can't able to believe the stories, the games which she had played when she was very young. That seems quite absurd and undignified as her part, and we treated it like a fables of the prophet she used to tell us. So here the game, whatever she had played, she had said to her grandson, that all the author can't able to believe, and he is thinking, how he is thinking it, that seems quite absurd. Absurd means what we can say, foolishness. How the grandmother will play, we can't able to believe. So the same way the author can't able to believe that the grandmother had played, what are the games, he can't able to accept, he can't able to imagine what's the play she had played, and undignified on her part. So grandmother was very old, and how he can't able to imagine that she is young and pretty, as well as the game which she had played. So it is not dignifiedனா ஒரு வயசானவங்க போய் விளையாடுவாங்களா அப்படின்னு நம்ம சொல்லுவோம்ல, அதான், that is dignified on her part, and we treated it like a fables of the prophets she used to tell us. What is a fables? Fables is nothing, it is a story. What type of story? In 10th standard we had studied one poem, the cricket and the ant. So in that is also that they had explained that is a fables. The fables means the imaginary stories which animals or something will take place, that is a fables. So here he is imagining what are the thing, the first thing, he can't able to imagine that his grandmother was young and pretty, the first point. Second, he can't able to imagine that she had the game what she had played, it's not, he is thinking that all what are the things she is telling, that's like a fables, that all the imaginary stories. As the prophets she used to tell us, what are she will tell the prophets means the scenes, they will tell some stories, no, all this imaginary, we can't, there won't be the evidence of written script or anything. So likewise, what are the story things, the childhood days what she had shared with his grandson, he is not ready to believe, and he is thinking that it all as a fables. Okay, let us go to the next. She had always been very short and fat and slightly bent. So now he is describing the structure of the grandmother. How she is short, not very short, she is short and fat, and slightly bent. Slightly bent means she have a bend. So அப்படினா அது கூன் லைட்டா கூன் விழுந்திருக்கு. Her face was a crisscross of the wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. So crisscross na anadu chumma simply we will draw here and there we will draw the line, that is crisscross. So here the same way she has a crisscross of wrinkles அப்படினா anadu முகத்துல நிறைய அங்கி இங்கேயுமா இருக்கு, சுருக்கமா இருக்கு, that is a crisscross of the wrinkles running from everywhere to everywhere. So throughout all her face she have a crisscross. It means the lines are running here and there because there is no blood in their body. So automatically what happened, the skin will wrinkles, சுருங்கி போயிடுச்சு. No, we were certain she had always been as we had known her. So he had explained for the past 20 years he know about her, she was old and wrinkled. So when even from the childhood itself he is seeing her, there is no change in her face, she is as it is. So she is old as well as she have a wrinkle on her faces. Old, so terribly old that she could not have grown older and have stayed at the same age of 20 years. So past 20 years there is no changes in her face, she is as it is what he had seen past 20 years before. So there is no change in her appearance. So she is short and fat and she is slightly bent, and throughout her face there is a wrinkles is running here and there. Okay, let us see. She could never had been pretty, and but she is always beautiful. Both the pretty and pretty girl, beautiful girl, it both have a similar meaning, but there is a slight difference is there in the meaning. Pretty means by seeing the face we will get attract towards that. That is a pretty. Okay, and beautiful, it's a outward beauty. We will say pretty by seeing appearance, but inside beauty, inside by heart itself, if you are very kind and good, that is called beautiful. So here she is not pretty, but she is very always beautiful. She is very beautiful. So she is very kind and attractive. She hobbled about the house in the spotless white, with one hand resting on her wrist to balance her stoop, and the another telling the beads of her rosaries. So she is hobbled about the house. She hobbled means she can't able to walk fastly because of her age. So she is used to walk very slowly, unsteady walk, that is hobbled. So she is hobbled about the house in the spotless white with one. So she always used to wear white color dress, and one hand she is wrestling on her wrist to balance her stoop. Stoop means STOOP. Stoop means spoon vilradhu. Okay, that is stoop. So she is balancing on her stoop rest because to balance her stoop. Okay, that is the stoop. Okay, so and she another hand is always telling the beads of the rosary. Beads in Christian RC, they will have a rosary means Jabamala. They will have 10 and 1, 10 and 1. They will say the prices of all Ave Maria, they used to say. Likewise in Hindu we have a Rudrajay. There we will say Om Namah Shivaya something they will say, and that is I am not sure about that. They will say the mantras that for that purpose they will use the beads of the rosaries. Rosaries is nothing, it is a japamala, the thing which we will say prayer we will use for counting the number of mantras we had set. Okay, his silver locks were scattered untidily over her pale buckled face, and her lips constantly moved in inaudible. So now he had described about the silver locked were scattered. Silver locked means the grey hair, the white hair, that is a silver locked. So her hair was scattered here and there. She was not tied it properly, and untidily over her pale freckled face. How her face was? Her face is very wrinkled face. So her hairs are falling on her face here and there, and her lip constantly moved in inaudible. How the lips? She is telling the prayer. Audible means which we can easily hear. Inaudible means we can't able to hear. So simply she is telling the rosary, the prayer, the mantras. The lips are constantly moving. It's continuously it is moving by saying the mantras. Okay. Yes, she was beautiful. Again the author is telling, yes, really she was very beautiful. She was like the winter landscape in the mountain and the expanse of the pure white synergy, breathing peace and contentment. So how she is the author, see how the author had explained the beauty of the grandma. She was like a winter landscape in the mountain. Winter means it's a white, it represents the snowfall, white. So the white, the sediment, the snow will deposits on the mountain. It is very pleasant to our eyes, as well as it will give peace to our mind. So she is always because she is wearing the white dress, and how she is always very silent. That's why he had said that contentment, it means she is fulfilled. Okay, contentment is fulfilled. Niraivaga mana nimmadiyoda. Peace means nimmadiyoda. By seeing her, she is wearing white, so he had described her appearance with the winter landscapes of the mountain. Okay, next we will pass on to the next paragraph. I hope you are understanding what I am telling. Okay, my grandmother and I were good friends. So Arthur and the grandmother both are very good friends. My parents left me with her when they went to live in the city, and we were constantly together. We used to wake up in the morning and get me ready for the school. She said her morning prayer in the monotonous sing song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get to know it by heart. I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. So Arthur and the grandmother are very good friend, and my parents left me with her when they went to live in the city. So their parents had left the Arthur with the grandmother and went to the city to settle down. We were constantly together, so they both are together, they are living together. She used to wake me up in the morning. So morning grandmother wake him, Arthur, and get me ready for school. So she is making the Arthur to get ready for the school. She said her morning prayer in the monotonous. It means monotonous in usual, in glossary they had given it's a boring, but here the same way of singing a song, that is monotonous. Okay, the same, there is no change in the way of telling the prayer, the same method. So the monotonous sing song while she bathed and dressed me in the hope that I would listen and get me to know it by heart. So when she make the Arthur to get bath as well as she is dressing him, and at the time she used to say the song, she will sing the song. So in the monotonous way, same way. So it in the hope that he may listen and by heart. By heart means memory, he will get memorized. But he had not bothered. He will listen but he won't bothered of learning it. He had never bothered to learn it. Simply he will listen, because then she would fetch my I listened because I loved her voice but never bothered to learn it. He loved her voice, so he will listen the song what his grandmother is singing, but he had not bothered to learn it. Okay. Then she would fetch my wooden slate which she had already washed and plastered with yellow chalk, with a tiny earthen ink pot and a red pen, tie them all in a bundle and hand it to me. So now when she would fetch means simply she is taking the wooden slate. I hope you all know what the slate. Slate is a thing where we will write in our childhood, that is a slate. So she was ready and washed. She will wash the slate, and she was plastered with yellow chalk. Yellow chalk means they will plaster with yellow means turmeric. They will apply the turmeric at the edge of the slates, and she will give the tiny, we should not read it certainly, it is a tiny earthen pot. Earthen pot means the pot which is made up of clay. In nowadays we are using the ink bottle in the glass or in the plastic. But in olden days the ink bottle is in the form of earthen pot. So she is giving the ink pot as well as red color pen, and she tied all together and give it to him. Handed to him means she is giving to him. After a breakfast of a thin slates chapatis and the little butter and the sugar spread on it, we went to school. She carried several slates chapatis with her for the village dog. So as a breakfast she is providing the chapati, thick slates of chapati means very hard, nalla tattaya irukra chapati, not so very soft and silky chapati. It's smooth and chapati. It is a thick slates chapati. So it is very hard chapati, and she is giving that. She is spreading the butter on it and the sugar. She is spreading this both and giving to the Arthur, and they are carrying few chapatis with them for giving to the street dogs. Okay, I hope you had understand up to this, and we will continue. My grandmother always went to the school with me because the school was attached to the temple. So always the grandmother used to go to the school with the Arthur because the school is attached with the temple. Attached with temple means there is both inside the same compound or very next door we have a school and the temple. The prize taught the used as the alphabets at the morning prayer, while the children sat in the row on either sides of the veranda singing the alphabets or the prayer in the chorus. My grandmother sat inside reading the scriptures. When we had both finished, we would walk back together. This time the village dog could meet us at the temple door. They follow us to the home, growling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we throw on to them. So, daily routine, grandmother used to go with Arthur to the school because the school is attached to the temple. The priest thought, the priest means the person, those who are doing pujas at the temple. So, he thought, he is a teacher there at the school, and he taught the alphabets and the morning prayer. The students will sit on the either side of the veranda, and they will sit there and they will chorously they will sing the alphabets as well as they learn the morning prayer. So, as well as after the school finished, what happened? The grandmother and the Arthur, they will come back to the home, and at the time what happened, when they come, they are ready to go to the home. At the time, this time the village dogs could meet us in the temple door. So all when the time they will exactly when they will leave the school, the village dogs will come and meet them at the temple door, and they will follow them to the house. They will follow the grandmother and the boy to their house also. How they are following? Crawling and fighting with each other for the chapatis we throw to them. So, the grandmother before paragraph we had discussed, the grandmother had taking chapatis with them to throw for giving for the street dogs. For this, how they are following, the dogs are following the grandmother and the Arthur by crawling. Crawling means the barking, or they are சண்டை போட்டு கத்திக்கிட்டு இருக்குது, that is crawling, and they are fighting with each other. They are fighting with each other for the chapatis which is thrown to them by the grandmother. So, I hope you had understand what we had thought for this. This first paragraph, the author explained about the grandmother and how she is very old and she have a wrinkle on her face, and the past 20 years he know her very well, and the people around them, they said that the grandmother was once upon a time she was young and pretty. Even the author can't able to believe that, because the past 20 years he knows her, he can't able to imagine that her grandmother was young and pretty. And in their house, in the living room, they have a mantle. Above the mantle they had hanged the portrait of his grandfather. How his grandfather is looking, he is at least his age is 100 years, and he is very strong. He can't able to believe that the grandfather has a wife and the children. As well, by seeing that he is very old, because of that he is thinking he has a lot grandchildren, and he had explained as his for his grandmother being young and pretty, he thought that is revolting. I had told it, we can't able to accept, that is unacceptable, that is revolting. And she often used to tell the games what she had played with olden days, and that also he can't able to believe, that he is thinking it is a fables of the prophets. And he had explained, and the next stanza he had explained about the appearance of the grandma. She is very short and fat, and slightly she was bent, and her face have a crisscross of wrinkles running here and there on her face, and she was very old and terribly old. For the past 20 years there is no change in the appearance of the grandma, and how she is very golloped, she can't able to walk, and she is wearing the white colored dress, and she is reciting the mantras using the beads of the rosaries. Then she is really very beautiful. And he had described her grandmother appearance with the landscapes of the winter in the mountain, the winter landscapes in the mountain. And now he is explaining about that they both live together because their parents went to the city for their betterment of their life, and they are living together. And in the morning usually the grandma wake him up and he dressed him, and she sing the monotonous song while making him to bath and the dress. At least she have a hope that he will listen and he by heart, but he listened the song because her grandma voice is nice, but he never bother about to he never bother about to learn it. So in this way, and she will make ready of the wooden slate plastered with a yellow chalk, and she will give the thin slates of chapatis to him. How the chapati on the chapati she will spread the butter and the sugar, and they will carry the chapatis for the street dogs also. They will both together they will go to the school, because the school is very attached with the temple, and he he will learn the alphabets and the morning prayer. The priest will teach the students will sit in the either row side of the veranda, and they will read. After the school ends, what happened, they will return to the home together. At the time, all the street dogs, they will come and meet the grandmother and the Arthur at the door of the temple. There the dogs also will follow them through to their home, grounding and fighting with each other for the chapatis which was given by the grandmother. So, let us see the remaining part, what will happen at the next section. Thank you my dear students. I hope you had understand what I had taught you.